Good morning, Mr. and Mrs. America, and all ships at sea. This is your captain speaking, Mean Gene. Mean Gene. The following will be a test of the ship's whistle, the sonar alarm, the cable alarm, and the atomic attack alarm.
Hello, America, and welcome to the #1 radio station in all of Fort Myers Beach. Beach Talk Radio. Here are your hosts, Kim and Ed Ryan.
And good evening, everybody. Welcome to a special edition of Beach Talk Radio, Monday night before the 4th of July. And before we get to our special guest for tonight, I want to let you know that tomorrow is the 4th of July. And from 12 o'clock until 5 o'clock, we're having a musical celebration at La Ola Restaurant to benefit FMB Strong. Please bring a case of water for FMB Strong, 820 Buttonwood, if you can, between 12 and 5 o'clock. D-Rock, Stephen Clark, High Tide, and Phil Oxford will be playing. And that's all tomorrow, the 4th of July. And we appreciate everybody that's going to come down and donate some water. We're also going to have 50-50 raffles. And we're going to give away 2 pub passports, courtesy of the Women's Club. That's all tomorrow, the 4th of July, on the beautiful beach of Fort Myers Beach. The 5th of July, we'll be doing a beach cleanup from 7 o'clock to 9 o'clock right in Times Square. And at 9 o'clock, La Ola, thanks to Tom, will be opening early. And if you wear your yellow Army shirt, you're going to get a free mimosa or a free Bloody Mary at 9 o'clock. So that's all the 5th of July. And if you can't make it from 7 o'clock to 9 o'clock, you can join the beach bar at 10 o'clock because they're having their annual beach cleanup at 10 o'clock. So you don't have to get up early if you stay out too late on the 4th and watch fireworks wherever you're going to see them. They won't be having fireworks on the beach this year. And remember, personal fireworks are against the law. So please don't get yourself in trouble on the 4th of July. I don't know if sparklers are an official. I can't see the Lee County Sheriff's Department rolling up on the kids with the sparklers and putting them in the back of the paddy wagon. And then next
to 5 or 12 to 4?
4 or 5, one of those things. Who knows? I mean, it's one of those hours. It's later on in the day, dear. Saturday, we're back at Wahoo Willie's for another great show. Brian Farrar is running for Lee County Commission, and he is going to be on the show at 11 o'clock. Ray Sandelli announced he wasn't running, and then Bill Spakowski is coming up after that, and everybody will get to know that name if you don't already. Our new followers will get to know how important Bill was to the Land Development Code and the comprehensive plan back in the day. The show today is sponsored in part by the Landau Law Group. They fight on behalf of homeowners, folks. If you don't have your insurance check and you've already gone through the public adjuster, you need to get an attorney at this point. You need to realize that the insurance companies are not operating in good faith, and you need somebody like the Landau Law Group to go after these folks and get the damn money you deserve. 866-703-4878. 866-703-4878. The Landau Law Group is there to help you out. Right now, let's get to our special guest. There she is. Everybody knows her. She doesn't need an introduction. She is the former mayor several times of Fort Myers Beach, the current LPA chair. She owns several businesses in Times Square and a business in Santini Plaza, which were all lost in the storm. And also her house was, I don't know if it was destroyed or severely damaged, but it wasn't left perfect the day that you left the storm. So you're all in on this, Anita.
I'm all in on this, Ed. By the way, where did you find that picture of me? That picture of me, I look like, I don't know if you remember this when you were little, there was a Mrs. Beasley doll. It looks like a Mrs. Beasley doll. I think, mate, what am I, 12 in that picture?
The only place I put it on Facebook today, the only place I would have gotten it, Anita, is from you. So you sent it to me at some point.
I sent that to you?
Maybe.
I must have been maybe I was drinking. I don't know. That picture. I wish that picture currently reflected me, but I think the stress has taken a little bit of a toll.
What's the name of that show with Mrs. Beasley? Yes, it was the single father and the girls.
Butler.
Yep.
Mrs. Beasley wasn't the maid, was she?
No, Mrs. Beasley was a doll.
Of the girl.
What was it? And it was a little blonde girl with pigtails or something. What was the name of that? I don't remember.
Was it the courtship of Eddie's father? Is that right?
No.
That wasn't it?
I don't think so.
By the way,
Anyway.
Anita, we're going to ask you the tough questions right out of the gate.
Okay.
So let's get right to it. Who is the
Go.
greatest rock and roll band of all time?
The Rolling Stones.
There you go. Did you see that Mick Jagger's getting married again at 90 years old? You see
Listen,
that
I'll tell you, you look at Mick Jagger and you think, would I, wouldn't I? Mick Jagger is Mick Jagger. Yeah. Good for him.
Good for her.
Did you see
Or
the
that.
new? Speaking of Times Square, did you see the news from Plaka today that the family decided after 42 years they were not going to rebuild, that they're going to sell that property? What were your thoughts when you saw that?
I've spent 38 of those 42 years with those families. I guess in a way, I'm happy that hopefully they'll have some time for themselves, but it's just that whole era. John Lalo, Steve Malakakis, and I, we all had our father's businesses. They were generational businesses. And it's an odd thing to see in this day and age, but yeah, it's sad. It's sad. It's sad. But I trust they made the best decision they could for their family.
Have you kind of come to any conclusion yet as to whether you think you'll ever be back in Times Square with your businesses?
I think I will not be. And I'm okay by that. I think that, right now, if there's any way to preserve as much open space as possible, I would, I think I told you the other day, Ed, if somebody said, hey, you can rebuild your stores, or we can figure out a way to preserve this for posterity, for the kids that were singing that night, so that, when they 50 years from now, they're, my age, and they come down there and whatever, what do they have? That area could be something really quite marvelous and a showcase. Doesn't necessarily, obviously the Plaka's not going to be selling gyros, and I'm not going to be selling dresses, and Lalo's not going to be there, and but a new generation of Times Square will happen, whatever that is.
Got it. All right, let's
All
get
right,
rolling.
you ready
here
to launch into it? All right, so
Lay it on me, sister.
There you go. So, I'm going to take a page out of Jim Ederholt's book. So we're going to set the table here and just, can you explain what a CPD, what it stands for, what it is, why someone might need it or pursue it?
Okay. So a CPD is a commercial planned development. You can also hear it called a PUD. I think the county still has PUDs, a planned urban development. It is a type of zoning just like residential or multifamily or commercial office. CPD is a type of zoning. The thing about CPD is it's a blank check. I don't mean that in any kind of, I hope people don't jump all over that. Jim talks a lot about wanting to leave the door open for that perfect opportunity of a project that comes forward that has all kinds of opportunities for the town, of course, has opportunities for the property owner. A CPD is that process by which someone wasn't going to operate in the normal box, but had something extraordinary or something that was thinking outside of the box that they wished to present to the LPA and the town council. And through that process, so let's, I'm going to use let's say that something was zoned commercial resort or zoned resort, commercial resort, whatever. And that parcel wanted to redevelop with more than the rights that were inherent in that zoning category. They could say, okay, we're going to go from commercial resort. We're going to apply for CPD zoning. We're going to present a plan. That plan is a very, very detailed plan. And if that plan is approved by the planning agency and the town council, then the zoning on that parcel that used to be commercial resort now becomes CPD. So if you guys were, it might be interesting for you to put this up on your page someday. If you were to look at the future land use map, the town of Fort Myers Beach, the town has all kinds of maps. One is the future land use map. And on that map, you can see the whole island, and there's like, little lines and dots and whatever, and it identifies what each area is zoned. And you can see CPD several places throughout the island. Like, for example, Publix is a CPD. CVS was a CPD. I think the movie theater was a CPD. So when you look at it in its simplest form, it is another type of zoning, but it is zoning that does not have any prescribed criteria, because the criteria for that project is identified and outlined and worked on during the course of the hearing processes and working with staff.
So
How was that?
I just want to add, so it just applies to that lot that they're only that
Only
spot.
applies to
So
that.
then it could
And
be
stays with that parcel forever.
in perpetuity.
Margaritaville is a C. Yeah, I know, it kind of gets old, doesn't it? Margaritaville is a CPD. If at some point in the future, someone were to buy Margaritaville, they would be also buying the CPD zoning that is underlying the resort and everything else. That property is CPD.
Anita, what's the purpose of having a comprehensive plan if all these parcels can come to you with a CPD?
Because we can't think of everything. And sometimes, in fact, I'm going to use Margaritaville because you can see it. We know it's there. We know what's going to happen. We know how it's working. Back in whatever year it was, maybe 2015 or so, I was newly back on the council, and the council formed an ad hoc committee to talk about what could we possibly do with Seafarers Village, which was then called Seafarers Village. There had been a CPD there previously. And so that property was already zoned CPD.
Can you, well, for people that don't know, Anita, can you explain where that is? There might be
where
people that don't know.
Seafarers Village was the parcel at the base of the bridge that now has the hotel, but also has the section that belongs to the county. So if you could carve out the little area that used to, for folks who've been around for a while, Ocean Jewels was right there at the base of the bridge. And then Seafarers and Helmrich Plaza. Seafarers was actually a little parcel. Helmrich Plaza was the larger parcel that went down Crescent Street and created this kind of weird little, there were several, let's see, there's 3 or 4 parcels that were in there that all kind of just got jammed up together. But why am I telling you this? What'd you ask me? I'm sorry, I'm tired. What'd you ask me?
I asked you where you explained where it was.
That's where Seafarers was. Okay. So you have the opportunity through a CPD to present a project or a plan that could enhance the community. So back when we had this ad hoc committee, we talked largely about how can we do something here? It was just after Hurricane Charlie. It was so blighted. It was just awful. And Tom Torgerson happened to be, I guess, around looking at some properties he was going to develop. I heard about him. And through someone else, I said, ask this guy to come to this meeting. He might find this interesting. And he did. And that was the first time that I had ever met him. Never in a million years did I think that, it would evolve to what it evolved to. But the assemblage of those parcels that were, let's say they're on the bay side of the boulevard, and then the other parcels on the beach side of the boulevard, all those parcels got put together in one big CPD.
Is a CPD typically for a larger development, a larger area, or no?
Not necessarily. Like I
Okay.
said, I think CVS is a CPD. Not necessarily. It's not about size. It's about structure
Okay,
and
well, let's talk
what you
about
can do with it.
let's talk about CVS. It's one building on one piece of property. Why would they need a CPD? Why don't they just did they not
I hope
fit
I'm
in?
not talking out of line. I don't know why I have in my mind that CVS was a CPD. It could be because previously it had been zoned something like maybe it was zoned residential multifamily. I don't know. And they bought that part. I can't remember. And they bought that parcel. And you know what? This is when it makes me really mad that Dan Hughes had to die because, gosh darn it, he would know. He'd be able to tell you exactly why that happened. But let's say it was zoned residential multifamily, would make sense because there's condos and everything around there, right? And somebody buys that parcel and they're like, what I really want to do is put a CVS here, in which case they have to change the zoning.
All right, just for the new folks that follow our show, Dan Hughes used to be the mayor a long
Oh
time. He
God, I
was
didn't even
around.
think
I
about
just
that.
want to
That
make sure
sounded
that
weird, didn't it?
we get new followers. So I just want to make sure everybody knows. I mean, there are a bunch of people that certainly know, but not everybody knows. And he passed away a year ago or so, or a year and a half ago
Yep,
or so. And
yep.
talk about a wealth of knowledge and
He
institutional knowledge. I mean,
was a
wow.
great
Yeah.
friend, an extraordinary person, and could probably recite chapter and verse of the Land Development Code and the Comprehensive Plan better than anyone ever could. He was
Gotcha.
just an extraordinary person. Yeah.
How does a CPD work with the comp plan or against the comp plan and the LDC? Like,
I don't think it works against the comp plan in any way. People get nervous about CPDs, and I'll tell you why I think they get nervous. I've seen some comments floating around about, well, like you just had Bill Washulis on the show talking about pink shell, and somebody said something, I don't know, was it him or Bob Boykin who said, yes, we've met with all the council members. And then, instantly it goes, oh, well, they're talking behind closed doors and whatever. There is a lot of conversation and work that happens in the preamble to the presentation of that project. That is not illegal. Because I'll tell you what happens in the course when that project comes, or if it comes to actual hearings, you must disclose any kind of conversation or written correspondence or anything you have had with that applicant, because it's your job in the course of that hearing to only make a decision based on what you hear in that hearing. If I'm not mistaken, the county still, for example, if that had happened in Lee County, the county commissioners don't have those interactions because it's just too, imagine on the scale that they're working. It's just too difficult. So they do not have that interaction. When the town first incorporated, we made a decision, an actual decision that we were going to allow conversation with applicants and utilize what's called ex parte communications, which means that we tell people on the record at the outset of the case, hey, I talked to Ed and Kim Ryan about this. I talked to John Richard. I talked to Jane Plummer. I talked to whatever. I've got lots of emails that are on record, and you have to disclose all of this. And there have been cases over the years why I constantly urge people to be careful. And I think you asked me if I would comment on something, and I said no, because it just becomes a real slippery slope. Let's say somebody wants to, get a gotcha in there, and they've marked down on their calendar. I talked to Anita on July 2nd about pink shell, and she has not disclosed it. Well, that's an offense. I mean, it's very technical and very important criteria for an applicant and the town to be able to go through this process.
And for any, I keep a close eye on the sunshine laws, and you need to have a few local media that do watch it. But the part about meeting individually with a developer is you can also, the developer can also get a consensus that, okay, this is too big. Before I even go before a committee, I better modify this because they've pretty much told me that. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. It's not 2 or 3 council people meeting with a developer at the same time, which
Let me
would
tell
be
you where that's dangerous. I'll tell you where that's dangerous. And I'm not going to, this is hypothetical.
Mhm.
It's dangerous when the applicant talks to Dan and whatever, and then talks to Jim, and then talks to Karen or Bill, and says to Bill, I've talked to Karen and Dan and Jim, and they like this. That is a violation. That's a violation. And that's that consensus building that, Jim wants Jim will support this if ABC. How do you feel about that? Ooh, that gives me the heebie-jeebies. And I think it's those kind of conversations that make people distrustful of the situation, which is why, it's good to err on the side of whatever. So going back to Margaritaville, when Margaritaville started started working on their project, I was the mayor at the time, and the council appointed me liaison to that project. And I said on public record in the meeting where they appointed me that I would not speak about anything I learned until the whole project was disclosed to the council. So I wouldn't be out there chatting about what I knew when they didn't know anything. And that was very difficult. It was difficult. But it kept the record clean, and nobody was saying, well, Anita likes this, that, or whatever about it, because I didn't say a word, not a word.
Sounds like maybe that might need to be modified the way you explained it. I never looked at it that way, that perhaps they shouldn't be meeting individually. Anybody should. It should all be at public hearings. It should all be.
Yeah, but look how much money is involved in this. There's nothing wrong with it. I mean, other people over the years have had, big meetings and whatever about this. I mean, Margaritaville did. Margaritaville had a lot of big public meetings. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just when you're a person who's sitting in one of those 5 chairs or in one of the 7 chairs of the LPA, you just have to be very careful because there's a lot of money. Somebody gets mad that they didn't get what they wanted, or that, it doesn't take anything for someone to, get going.
So let's you keep pointing and you,
Right.
if there's something that you want to jump on, she's afraid I'm getting off the topic.
No.
Go ahead.
Well, back to talking about CPDs. Can they or can they not exceed the comp plan?
Absolutely, nothing can exceed the comp plan.
Okay,
The
so
comp plan is like the Bible.
Okay,
It
and
is.
so what is the Bible? What is the limit on height?
About as long as the Bible too.
The limit of the comp plan contemplates a livable, walkable community. A human scale community. The land development code is what regulates height, depending on where you are, what type of zoning you have, and whatever. So you can ask for variances or deviations to height in the course of an application for a CPD. You absolutely can. But at some point, that council, let's say this council, because this council is going to, have a lot of cases before them. The council and the LPA will have to make a statement that says, we find this to be consistent with the goals and objectives of the comprehensive plan, period. Which means that it's met all the criteria. This is not the kind of case where you're going to say, somebody's going to say, I move to approve. And somebody says, second. Well, that kind of motion doesn't go with a CPD. Somebody's going to make a motion. I mean, if you go back to the Margaritaville hearing, you will see Joanne Champ, former, I think she was the vice mayor at the time. She was masterful in crafting the motion for Margaritaville. Thank God she was there. She was masterful. She did not miss a beat. She did not miss an I or a T. And it is dot by dot, you're going through the application and finding that it's consistent. You're finding it meets the criteria for the variance or the deviation or whatever, because there's lots of little pieces. It's very surgical. It is not legislative in nature. It is quasi-judicial in nature.
I don't know what that means, but
I'm going to tell you. I'm going to tell you. Legislative is something like the noise ordinance is legislative. We're going to, on Monday night, the council decides we're going to raise the noise level to 8 decibels. And with 3 votes, they can do it. That's legislative. Here's what I want to do. This is what I think or feel. A quasi-judicial decision has very specific criteria and legal quasi-judicial rules that the process must follow. It must follow. It's not just, hey, I feel like this is a good idea. It's, hey, this is a good idea because A, B, C, D, and because A, B, and C, D do E, F, G. It's very specific.
So, Anita, in your opinion, the way you understand the comprehensive plan and the LDC, how high can commercial buildings go up on Fort Myers Beach?
Outside of a CPD? I mean, somebody could ask for whatever height they want to ask for in the course of a CPD. Mm-hmm. Whether or not they get it is another. I mean, there's absolutely nothing to let me think that, even reading some comments from people, I get no sense whatsoever from the community that they want 5, 6, 7, 8-story buildings on Fort Myers Beach. I just don't. I get no sense of that, nor do I. The LDC, so I'll give you an example. Downtown right now, downtown is Diamond Head. I'm just going to make an easy triangle. Diamond Head, Times Square, down Old San Carlos, over to Crescent, back over to Diamond Head. More or less is a downtown zoning. There are some little addition pockets, but more or less that's a downtown zoning. In that zoning district, that future land use district, that area, you can have in the V zone. Now, remember that the V zones and A zones, those are FEMA functions, not town functions. That's FEMA.
Right.
And in those, you can have 2 stories over parking. Okay, 30 feet. 30 feet. Now, that's by right. That's just by right. You can have 3 stories in the V zone now that we're not counting parking in the floor area ratio council. Well, I say we, I don't know what the council will do, but the LPA said, don't count it. So now your calculation doesn't start down here on the ground, it starts at the base flood elevation. So now those same 3 stories that were parking and 2 floors, now it's 3 floors here. But still, it comes to 30 feet. But you're measuring it from here, right? In 2021, there was an amendment to the LDC that adds, I think, 5 feet. And that's island-wide, which could theoretically give you an extra story. And theoretically take you, by right, without the CPD process, to about, I'd say, 35, maybe a little bit more, somewhere in that range, feet. Anything more than that, you're in a CPD application process because you don't have it by right. Now, that should make people feel secure because it's, now you look at some houses that are up, some houses are this high right now. I mean, they're 40, 50 feet high, you know? But I think it's important to that downtown district also gives property owners parking reductions, 67% parking reduction. 60, that's a lot. Setback lines, you could actually build out to your property lines. So there are some opportunities in the downtown area that do not exist anywhere else on the island.
So, Anita, do you believe some of the stuff that you're hearing about, the people in that downtown district, some of them say they can't make it work with 3 stories above base flood elevation. They need to go to 5, or, they can't make it work with the parking. I mean, what is your vision of that? Is it tough toenails, people? We're following the plans here. I mean, you can't go 5. That's not an option. Or you can apply for CPD and pay all the money that you have to apply for CPD.
Which is a drop in the bucket compared to any of these projects I've heard about. So, take the costs away, because it's part of doing business, right?
How much is the cost of a CPD?
Oh, gosh, I've never done one. I'm maybe $5,000.
Okay.
There's parking studies. There are other things that might come to, but in the scheme of things, like in our recent LPA hearing, someone made a comment that by not granting a variance on a particular house, the property owner would incur probably $25,000 more cost to make it more custom. And I said, well, $25,000 when you're talking about $1 million home, it seems like, why am I worried about that? And I don't worry about that. The money factor, it's not a criteria for consideration. So what do I think when somebody says I can't make it work? I never use Sanibel as a comparison, because, some
but
people.
Here it comes.
But here comes. The number one requested location. I mean, Fort Myers Beach does great bang up business, and we are a moneymaker. However, Sanibel, it prides itself on holding the line on its plan, and I don't hear anybody complaining about doing business on Sanibel. None. So I think that right now, look, you've got an LPA and a town council who have said, we are not going to change the comprehensive plan.
Twice.
Maybe we're going to tweak the land development code a little bit, but I have not heard anything that tells me we're going to approve something that's 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 stories high. I haven't seen that. And I've yet to hear anything compelling other than I want to make more money, which is the same phrase as I can't make it work. I mean, there have been a lot of projects on that island, and lots of people who have come to do business in the town of Fort Myers Beach, and they've made it work. And I suspect that it will happen again.
Yeah.
I have no doubt in the future prosperity of our town. Now, whether or not that future prosperity is with somebody who currently is there or the next guy, I don't know, but I'm sure of it.
Go ahead and pop.
Well,
Ask Tom's question. Go ahead.
It's a long one. Go ahead. All right, I'm going to ask a question instead of popping it up. So, okay, sorry about that. When the comp plan was created, they saw the need for the commercial district to redevelop and created a vision for that, which was in sync and paramount to having a small community feel.
Yep.
Okay. A pedestrian grade level downtown commercial core district that was 2 or 3 stories over base flood elevation. Does Anita agree that this was the case? What has or would potentially change the community's vision as to what they want the future of Fort Myers Beach to look and feel like in its downtown area?
I don't think anything has changed, Kim. I think people still ideally would like to see that. I truly do. That was the vision, because our comp plan was always contemplating about the future even though we never in a million years thought about this. But we were contemplating the future. So the other day, I posted something that is straight from the comp plan that says, defining Fort Myers Beach in the future. And it talks about small town charm. It talks about a walkable community, a community that thrives on its habitat and its, local tourism, where businesses and residents live in unison. I get goosebumps when I say it. It defines Fort Myers Beach as a living park. Now, I don't think, when I posted that, every comment was, well, that's someplace I'd like to live. Well, of course it is. It is where we live. Looks like hell right now, but it still is where we live. And I think we did an extraordinary job 28 years ago in grasping that. Because even if you think about that resiliency meeting when people were all, punching in their little answers and it was coming up, what were the answers you were seeing about Fort Myers Beach? Small town, home. It was all about those feelings that you have about your place. It wasn't about anything other than that. I'll just say that. So I don't think anything has changed, Kim. Now, if people want to talk about that, then let's be really straight and open and talk about it. But so far, 7 LPA members and 5 council members have said, we believe in this.
Let's pull a question up on the screen from Dennis. What future commercial
I can't read anything. Can you? Okay, you're reading now.
I'll read it. What future commercial projects are approved that are within the current comp plan in downtown district? How many commercial deals have actually closed on the beach that are in this district?
Oh gosh, I don't have that information. I
Well,
have no idea how
many been approved yet. Nothing's been approved yet by either. Nothing's really been approved yet by either board.
No, there have been no large. Well, there's no. As a matter of fact, everything that's come forward to us so far has all been residential.
Right.
I don't think there's been anything commercial the Pink Shell is the first commercial application in, I believe. Then there's just, everybody else talking about, something I have no tolerance for, I truly don't, is I don't know what I can do. I have no idea what I can do. I'm waiting for somebody to give me the plan. The plan's been published since 1999.
Yep.
And the LDC outlines how to accomplish that plan. If somebody doesn't know what they can do, then I don't know, they need to hire somebody to figure it out for them because it's there. Now, what else might they be able to do? Well, that would be defined in the course of a CPD.
What they're really saying is, I can't really make it work with the plan that's now in place. I'm waiting for you all to change the plan so it works better for me. Nobody wants to say that.
People have said they're not going to, so I don't know why. But you know what else? I can't really make it work. There is nothing in the criteria that we would have to use to approve or deny a commercial plan development. Nothing that says, oh, we've got to give him 10 stories because it's the only way he can make it work. Nothing.
No, so then they have to offer some sort of public benefit.
And quite honestly, there's no criteria for public benefit either. It's just, that's when things become subjective. Like, is this an improvement to the neighborhood? Is this an improvement to the town? But it isn't like you could say, I want a new sidewalk. I want a pedestrian walkover. I want 150 students in the school. And click. That doesn't mean you're going to get it.
Right.
And depending on the time of the world in the town of Fort Myers Beach, just as recent as when I was on the council, nobody was talking about workforce housing. We just weren't. Right. We were talking about people getting priced out of the market. We were concerned about short-term rentals eating up our local rentals, and now it's a buzzword. So,
well, and Anita, what is your feeling on the argument or the it's not really an argument, but people put out there that, if they don't get more breaks, or if they don't get a little more help, or if they don't get the fees that are reduced when they put in a CPD, and again, I don't know what the fees are, that Fort Myers Beach is going to be a ghost town for 5 or 6, 7 years, whatever it is, because people aren't coming to the beach to build. Or, I mean, that argument's floating out there too, and your institutional knowledge to address that is important.
With all due respect to anybody who has said that, I think it's a bully tactic. So Fort Myers Beach is not Mexico Beach. It isn't New Orleans. Fort Myers Beach is uniquely poised to recover in an expeditious manner. People are going to want to invest in our community. They are reinvesting in our community. And this idea of, give it to me or else, I find quite insulting.
Do you think that the this Let's Go FMB group that organized had a lot of people there? There were a lot of community members, probably 90 to 100%, all friends of yours that are say things aren't moving fast enough. Are they?
Well, God bless them. I mean, hey, I'm still waiting for my roofing permit at my house, so it's not moving fast enough for me either. However, there are mechanisms in place right now that folks could take advantage of, but it seems to me, and I have not talked one-on-one with anyone in that group talking about pink zones and lean urbanism and all of that. I've not had a conversation. Of course, I have had conversations with Scott at the LPA about things like this. And in one meeting, I said to him, your path is a CPD. I still think that. Is it costly?
Just to clarify for the audience, Scott Safford is on the LPA. He's also co-owner with Jackie of the Sea Gypsy, which was totally destroyed. So that's what you're referring to.
And I feel for them so intensely because it was completely washed away, completely gone. And they had one of the most unique, charming, I mean, how many people took pictures of the Sea Gypsy Inn? The Sea Gypsy Inn was iconic to the island. But how do you recover that? How do you recover that? I mean, they could not rebuild it as it was because it's in a V zone. So at a minimum, they have to go up. Yep. So I don't know what the solution is there. I don't think that the solution for them is the same as anybody else. I think these properties are unique. I love an organization and I love for people to get together and try to figure things out. And perhaps this group will come up with something that, helps everyone. I mean, raises all ships. I have no idea, but maybe, who knows?
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No,
so I mean, we're talking about the CPD, and again, for me, who knows nothing. Again, what does that in that situation that we were just talking about, like the Sea Gypsy or something similar, make it anonymous? What does that afford them to do that they can't do now?
Okay, here's a piece of paper. Hold on. I'd like to use pieces of paper. I'm going to use this little card. Here's this. This is my parcel.
Okay.
And right now, let's say my parcel is in the downtown district. Right now, by right, without asking anyone, I can, if the council passes the LPA's recommendation to move the floor area calculation from here to wherever base flood is, this parcel could have 3 floors. So it could go from here to here by right. I think I'm saying this correctly. Yes. By right, if they were required to have 100 parking spaces, they would only have to have 67% of that 100 parking spaces. because of where they're located by right. They have minimal setbacks by right. Let's say that that's still not enough. That what they really want to do is be this. This is the box that I really want.
Okay.
And now I'm going to create a CPD, because I'm going to ask, instead of 3 stories and 30 or 35 feet, I'm going to ask for 50 feet and 5 stories. I'm going to ask for a 100% reduction in parking, because the downtown is contemplated as a park once option. So you could ask. It doesn't mean you'll get it, but you could ask. I'm going to create such an enticing, marvelous, fabulous plan. Maybe I have a little edge piece here. So maybe this is my parcel. I'm going to be tall and skinny, because now I'm going to give the town an easement to the beach. Another new
That
beach
would be the
access.
public benefit thing?
That would be a public benefit, yes.
So the LPA and then eventually the town council would have to decide if allowing whatever piece of property that is, whether it's the sea gypsy or anybody in that zone, can go from 3 to 5, whether that is enough public benefit. And you're also setting a precedent. You're setting a precedent if you
forget about
agree.
public benefit. The public benefit element is not what is going to make them decide. What is going to make them decide is whether or not the project is consistent with the goals and objectives of the comprehensive plan. Now, is it or is it not? If it has all kinds of public benefits, but it's still not good with the comp plan, then you can't approve it. People are getting bogged down in this public benefit. Yeah. Like, if I give you A, then you've got to give me B, and that's just not how it works. They contemplate all of that all together, not one piece at a time, the whole box. It becomes soup. It becomes a puree soup. You can't take one piece out of the other.
Okay, great explanation. Very detailed. So you've been around since the comprehensive plan was developed. You're on the LPA now. Is going from 3 to 5 consistent with the comprehensive plan?
I don't think so. And you know what? I hope that I am not prejudicing myself for projects that are coming forward, because to me, 5 floors over parking is a substantial increase in height, and that is not how we contemplated Fort Myers Beach looking and feeling and being. We did not contemplate that, and well, we contemplated it for sure, absolutely, because look, we were in the line of Diamond Head being approved. We absolutely contemplated, and we said, we don't want this. We want small town charm.
For people who are relatively new, I think what you just said is a good point, that the reason, and I may get this wrong, what was the reason for developing the comp plan in the first place?
Every municipality, by law, must create a comprehensive plan within 3 years of their incorporation. You must.
I mean, in regards to the Diamond Head.
That was kind of like that. Well, really excited.
Let me back up your question a little bit. Diamond Head was like the straw that broke the camel's back for incorporation, because the Civic Association, headed by Ted Fitzsimons, the Civic Association, everybody was just going nuts. Like, how can the county was vacating roads and giving all this height, and here we were, when people say, oh, we'd be better off in the county, beware what you ask for. Beware what you ask for. So, all due respect to the county commissioners, but when the town incorporated, the notion of height was absolutely not palpable in any way, shape, or form. I think over the last 28 years, it's become a little more flexible, like I just illustrated to you, based on certain conditions, but not Diamond Head palpable.
Mhm.
So, Anita, just to play devil's advocate a little bit,
Oh, you?
I mean, if you have a downtown
What the
district,
hell, Ed? Go ahead.
you have a downtown district that really is it's decimated. I mean, it's a war zone in certain areas down there, and you're looking at a building that can now go up 3 stories because you're going to change the FAR. If the town council, it sounds like it might change the FAR, so you can go 3 levels above base flood elevation. Is it really that big a deal to go 5? I mean, it's the downtown district.
Well,
It's
you
not a
go stand next to a building that does that. Go stand next to, or look at there's lots of illustrations in our comprehensive plan. And yes, it's a big difference. Now, does it, yes, it's a difference. I'm just going to say that. To me, it is a difference. Yes.
If you're actually going to ever rebuild in Times Square, that sucker is going to start at 19 feet in the air. I mean, who knows? I mean, who knows how that will ever happen or when that will ever happen, but that has to start way high. I mean, so what's if some folks that are on Estero Boulevard in that downtown district need to go 5 or 4 or something like that, you're talking about that one area, right?
The whole need thing is not an argument that flies with me. Maybe it
Okay.
does with other people. Maybe other people find that compelling. It is not compelling to me on any level. On any level. Because for me, what I need is for our community to feel secure and knowing what their elected officials and advisory committees are standing for. That's what I need. I need to know that business owners respect the town that they're in and the values we aspire to. I need that. And look, I'm a small business owner. I
Yep.
know what the rules are. I knew what they were when I came here, and I know what they are today. And so this need, I think, it's whose needs are we meeting? And for me, the comprehensive plan conscribes to the needs of a community, not the needs of any given developer. But I don't mean that in a mean way.
No, it's great. It's great to get that out there. Do you think the residents of Fort Myers Beach would be a little more flexible in the downtown district than they would be when you turn the corner there by Seagrape?
Uh, I don't know. I don't know. Everything I have not had a single solitary conversation, not one, not one, where somebody has said, "Oh, make it taller. I love it." I've not had one. And listen, I do the pitch of this is better than this. I do that pitch because it gives us space, right? So a little height variation could help create a much nicer living experience. But a little is not a lot.
Do you think we'll wind up seeing more empty lots and view corridors on Estero Boulevard in the downtown district at the end of the day when maybe the town buys up some property with the help of that organization and they make it a park or, is that an area that you envision seeing more open space down the road?
If I were in charge and didn't have to ask anybody, it's absolutely a vision I would see down the road. Because back to Ted Fitzsimons, the champion of the incorporation, his slogan was preservation is progress. And, it's like, oh, he's an environmentalist. He likes to fish. Oh, he was a wonderful man. But more and more, I understand that in such a different way now. We live on a barrier island. And anybody who's been through this storm knows that it's really not an ideal place for human beings. We know that. And every time we put something up, we're standing against Mother Nature, essentially, right? But we still do it. I'm rebuilding my house. I'm rebuilding my store at Santini. But there's only so much that island can take. And maybe this is a moment where we need to breathe and say, gosh, here's a repeating refrain I hear from folks who come to the beach for the first time since the storm. Oh, it's so sad. It's horrible. It's whatever. but it's also magnificent. The property of the red coconut, oh, it's beautiful. You can see the beach. Look at the palm trees. They are commenting on what we all most love about our island environment. That's what they're commenting on. And I think if they were given the choice, would you like to have all of this, this, now granted, we're talking about property that people own, so it's not like we can wave a magic wand and say, well, we'd like that. But if you gave them the choice, I think that that ability to breathe the air of an island would be their choice. I think that. Maybe not.
I will say, when I was on the bike on Sunday, I mean, people were commenting about just how many open areas there are. Now we know that that's not going to stay like that.
No,
But
of course not.
when you see it, you're like, oh my God, yeah, that's
Beautiful.
awesome. That's great.
Yeah,
It's
it's
beautiful.
beautiful.
Can
Yeah.
we maybe save a little bit of this?
Well,
in
I
the
sure hope so. And I think that part of this whole resiliency effort on the part of the county, I know Bill Veach has been very involved in it. I know Dan's been involved, Jim. I think that there is a concerted effort to make some of those things happen. I mean, one of the things people love about Fort Myers Beach pre-storm was the accessibility of getting to the beach. I mean, imagine you grow up in Indiana, totally landlocked all your life, and you get 1 week a year to come to the beach. I mean, it's a dream, right? And we live in it on a daily basis. So I think it's just a time not necessarily to think about more, but to think about better.
Do you feel like that's do you have the right people in government right now that feel the same way, that are going to try and think that way?
Well, I know Bill and Dan and Jim very well, and I admire them very much. I really don't know Karen and John. I mean, I think they seem to be lovely people. I'm sure that they're there to do the right thing. I just don't know them that well. Um, uh, Not to say that they wouldn't. They seem to be working collaboratively. I think that's extraordinarily important. The LPA is just a dynamic group. I'll honestly tell you, I think since the very first LPA, this group is just there. I mean, there are just so many different skill sets. I love working on the LPA right now. So do I think? Listen, I think that anybody who gets involved in government or service in a small town has at their heart a desire to make their community a better place to live. And so I guess in a simple way, my answer to that question is yes, I think there absolutely are the right people in place.
See workforce housing ever being built on Fort Myers Beach?
No, I don't. Well, Bill's going to hate the fact that I just said that. And he's off in Greenland or something, but you watch. Look, the economics of that don't work. Now, does it break my heart that friends of mine who work at Diamond Head can't find a place to live within 50 miles of Fort Myers Beach? Yes. If I hadn't bought my house, when I bought my house, I'd be in the same boat. So, but for the grace of God, it could be me too. But this isn't a Fort Myers Beach issue. This is a real Florida issue.
Right. I mean, it's amazing the values of the properties on Fort Myers Beach, despite the devastation, continue to go up, and people are buying up the property.
But listen, look at it. It's like, I mean, the other day I'm on the phone with a reporter from the New York Times. And this guy is kind of funny because I'm, talking like I talk about Fort Myers Beach, and I'm telling him about the hurricane and whatnot. And he said, "Are you still going to live there?" And I said, "Well, yes." And he said, "Why?" And just at that moment, I was coming by Junkanoo and the red coconut, and it's like, that vista through there. The sun is shining down on the water. It's glittery, the palm trees, the blue sky. And in kind of an emotional way, I said to him, because there is not a place on earth I would rather be. Not a place on earth. So,
What are you
yeah.
most worried about?
I'm worried that folks who live on the island are giving up. That's what I'm most worried about. Look, we've been dealing with this crap for 9 months, and it's exhausting. You know, early on, I talked about the stages of grief. I don't even know what stage we're in at this point, but it has been a daunting task to keep your head above water. I mean, folks don't know. Shoot, this week I heard about people getting threatened with $500 fines for putting down rocks, for God's sakes. That's not a way to deal with people right now. That really made me mad. I mean, we all need to realize that this has been and will continue to be probably some of the most difficult situations any of us have ever dealt with. And we don't have any choice but to take it slowly. But in the last 5-6 weeks, I'd say that I know maybe 8 or 9 people who have said, I just can't deal with it anymore. I'm done. I'm selling my house. I'm moving to Nokomis. A friend of mine moved to Austin, and that makes me really sad. That's what I worry about most. I don't worry that whether or not Times Square will redevelop. I don't worry about it at all. Not at all. But I do worry about the woman who lives on Denora that is just hanging on, and she hasn't gotten her insurance check yet, and her roofer screwed her, and I mean, not literally, but you know what I mean. And that I worry about.
So
Sorry.
the fabric, the change in the fabric.
We know you're tired.
Yes, the changing of the fabric of our community. And I believe that our community is strong enough and resilient enough to overcome this. But gosh, it's like holding onto a wall without a ledge. It's tough sometimes. It's really tough. And
I think a lot of people, as you said, if you had not bought or had what you had, there by the grace of God. And I think there's a lot of people that were in that boat. And so
absolutely
really
there
hard for them, to look at that.
Sure.
Do you think there are going to be enough families to make the beach school work?
You know, I'm not in the loop on that. I think our community is changing dynamically. I wish that it was going to still be like it was when my brother Charlie was playing baseball there, or when Jane's daughter Katie was on the soccer field. I wish that it was still like that, but it's changed several times since then. And there is a great article in National Geographic years and years ago, and it's called "The Beaches Are Moving," and it talks about beach renourishment. But what it really talks about is the nature of living on an island, and how in this article it says, with every wave that comes to the shore, our community changes. And so, you have all these expressions like, I'm on island time. Oh, she's an islander, whatever. And it has to do with our ability to kind of go with the punches, to deal with what happens. And this has been a huge punch, and we will come back. What that looks like for the school and whatever, I don't have that picture. I don't know.
Yeah.
I wish I did.
Ian wasn't a wave. It was really like a tsunami,
Yeah, it was. It was some bombs in there just for good measure, in case it missed something. Let's bomb this section.
I mean, people, it's been 9 months, which I know for some people down there, a lot of people down there, it seems like a lifetime, but you go down any one of those streets and there are still houses that need to come down. There are still houses that haven't been touched, and they're going to be touched. There's vehicles on that one green vehicle on Estero Boulevard.
Have you been down Linnell Street?
Yes, I have. Yeah.
Looks like nothing ever happened. Linnell Street looks beautiful.
Right.
Indian Bayou looks great. So there are little pockets
Mm-hmm.
that are coming along where you just go, I mean, it inspires hope, quite honestly. But then you see the shamrock. I mean, I'm surprised nobody's put some little witch's legs out from underneath that, the shamrock house, because it looks like, that's what it looks like. And there are lots of properties that, will yet to be demolished. And that is sad. I mean, I'm not currently living on the beach. When I'm there, I almost feel guilty that I'm not living on the island, because maybe there's something I could do. But oh Lord, it is so it's desperately sad to me still. I feel, I feel too much of it. And yet, God bless Jim Adderholt. He's out there every day going in and out, and my friend Jane the same, and Dan and Bill, and I mean all these folks that are down like in the trenches, moving around and moving around. I guess they have a stronger constitution than I do. It's just been a little too hard for me still. So, I mean, when my house is finished, I'll move back down for sure. But
Well,
and I have no ideas of moving, but it's rough.
when do you think you might be back in your house?
Ooh, well, I don't know. Maybe by the end of the year.
Ball.
What?
Get out your crystal ball.
My crystal ball. Well, my roof still isn't done. I'm going away. I leave tomorrow. Maybe when I come back, my team, my contractor, my team is. They've done a fantastic job. The inside of my house actually is looking like a house again, which is incredible. But yeah, when I hired them, they said, "So what's your timeline?" And I said, "I'd like to make Thanksgiving dinner in my kitchen this year. I'd like to have people over for Thanksgiving dinner." And they said, "Well, that's absolutely reasonable." And I think it probably is.
Great. Well, that's great. That's not too far away. Now,
No.
we've been kind of keeping a close eye on Santini Plaza, and Sharon told us that you might be expanding over there eventually. Is that anything you can share?
Yeah, I mean, I would like to. I've been talking about that for at least the last year, when I knew that Interiors Unlimited was going to be moving.
Yep.
I began talking with Sharon about acquiring that space because the Islander was kind of busting at its seams, and so we knew that if we expanded back, that it would work really well. And then I have another opportunity maybe to enlarge it a little bit more with the space that used to be Skipper's, and maybe have an homage to the Pier Peddler there, which is I think it's funny. I think it's the one store of mine that people have the most emotional connections to. But of course, it was there for 38 years. I had the most emotional connection to it too. So yes, and I think that the owner of the plaza is, he's getting a little steam now, and hopefully, who knows? It would be great if some of us could come back online by the end of the year there. I'm still hopeful. I don't know that will happen because so much of it is beyond our control, but for sure I will be back in Santini Plaza. Absolutely.
Yeah, well, they've got the roof on now.
Yeah.
I mean, the
And
roof
the
is
windows.
fantastic.
The roof is on.
Yeah.
But like everything, I think one thing, I was reading some comments from folks when you asked the question, how's your experience been with permitting? And like Barbara Hill said, it's been great. Well, Barbara Hill had a contractor who knew exactly what they had to do. And somebody who was, kind of overseeing everything. Where I think folks are really, at least one woman that I talked to this morning, struggling is that they're trying to do it on their own. And when you get a notice that says, we need more information, it's not like you call them up and say, "Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot A, B, and C." Your application is now sitting over here in limbo, and it has to restart. There's a lot of lag time. But again, everybody's trying to do the same thing all at once. So I'm sympathetic, and I think the town is doing a great job, and they'll continue. I mean, they want nothing more than for everybody to be back in their homes and businesses to be back open. I mean, if they could wave magic wands, I know they would.
Anita, have you been able to calculate the total loss in product from all your stores And did insurance take care of you?
No, Ed, you know why? Nor am I going to calculate it because that would be just too much to take. Although somebody sent me a picture, I don't know, sometime recently, and the picture is kind of like of the back of where local color would have been. And I can zoom in on that picture and see all sorts of stuff that it was mine. No, I am not a person that believes that you recuperate loss. You have a loss, it's a loss, and you move forward. I don't think in terms of restarting my business. I think I am opening a new business because it's from scratch. And I don't want to take, all this loss with me into the future. So no, I have not calculated it, nor am I going to calculate it. It's over and it's gone.
What final thoughts do you have to share with the residents and the visitors before we head to Paris?
No, I'm not going to Paris. I'm going to España. I would say don't give up. Don't give up. Give your elected officials the benefit of the doubt. They love Fort Myers Beach too. And it's hard to say be patient because, I'm glad I'm leaving town because I'm not feeling patient. I guess just try to, as Pollyanna-ish as it sounds, try to remain hopeful.
Well, you have a great time, and we always appreciate you. We love you coming on. It's always very educational, and we appreciate you.
I hope I helped a little, and if I didn't, well, I did my best.
You always do. The comments have been great.
The comments have been great, and it was immensely informational. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Well, I hope you guys have a good summer, and I'll see you soon.
Thanks a lot. Anita Cereceda, everybody, the former mayor of Fort Myers Beach, the current chair of the LPA, 3 businesses on Fort Myers Beach that she owns and will be reopening in Santini Plaza sometime soon, whenever they get that all wrapped up. So big audience tonight. Thank you all for tuning in. Thank you for the questions. And again, we'll be in Times Square tomorrow at La Ola starting at 12 o'clock. We'll have some of our merchandise. We do not have but a few of the pink tank tops left. So thank you all for buying that. We've ordered a ton more. We'll have our black tanks and our blue tanks and our yellow shirts and hats. And we hope you can bring a case of water for the folks at FMB Strong. And then on Wednesday, we'll clean the beach at 7 o'clock from 7 to 9. If you can't make it that early, you can always join the folks at the beach bar right up the street there. They have their annual beach cleanup at 10 o'clock.
But you can come and clean the beach.
That's right. You don't have to. There doesn't need to be any organized beach cleanup. You can always, or you know what?
Get a bag. And
or you could take your shit with you before you leave the beach, and nobody would ever have to clean it up.
I know, but I think that the people that are leaving their crap are not the people that are showing up for a cleanup.
Right.
So.
One of the things I noticed too when I was running Saturday was that you have to remember to fill in your holes too. It was like so awful on Saturday. Yeah, people building things on, Friday night or whatever. The turtles need to be able to, clear paths. So remember to fill your holes in and to take your trash with you when you leave. And then Saturday, we have a great show lined up. Talk about the comprehensive plan and the land development code. Bill Spakowski is going to join us at 11:30 to talk about his history on Fort Myers Beach.
You can bring the water right down there, right? Right down to Times Square.
Yeah, just bring the water. And there's going to be a trailer set up in Terry Prasad's parking lot there. And we're going to load all the waters up there, and FMB Strong's going to take it away later on in the afternoon. Thank you, Deb. Great interview with Anita. We appreciate that. Well, it's an easy interview for us when you have Anita on because, she has all the answers. She's been around since, she's incorporation, which is really
able to explain it.
That's right.
Well, and she's funny and informative and
Yes, she's informational and what's the other word I'm looking for? Entertaining. She's very entertaining. And that hair, man, that freaking hair. And so we hope she has a great vacation when she goes off to Spain. I thought you said Paris. Somebody else is going to Paris. Somebody would tell me. She goes to Spain. I don't know where I got Paris from. But Paris is in France, by the way. Thank you all for joining us. We appreciate it. 2 weeks. We'll see you in Wisconsin. Thank you all. Have a great 4th of July.